Welcome back to the Reynolds Team Podcast. My name is Scott Reynolds, and I'm here with Rodolfo let me start over. Villamizar, right? Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Let me start over. And I am here with Rodolfo Let me start over. Welcome back to the Reynolds Team Podcast. My name is Scott Reynolds, and I am here with Rodolfo, who is the professional engineer at MBV Engineering firm here in our local area. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
What we want to talk about, and for the audience, is there's with mostly condominiums, there's been a lot of they call them milestone inspections and structural inspections that your firm has been doing throughout the Treasure Coast and probably even further south, correct?
We've done mainly the Treasure Coast and mainly Treasure Coast.
So what do you currently do with MBV Engineering?
I am in charge of I'm the partner in charge of the structural division.
Okay.
So we have 4 or 5 engineers in-house, and we have offices in Melbourne, Vero Beach, and Fort Pierce.
Okay. So that goes, I know the condo inspections are one thing that you've been doing, but that is like if someone's going to build a new building or a new structure, they get the structural review, they hire your firm to do probably structural and engineering and probably everything, right?
Yes. We do civil engineering and structural engineering.
Okay.
So we do commercial and residential projects.
Okay.
So when somebody wants to build a house or a building, we can do the design. We also have a specialty line. I'm a special inspector. So we do a lot of concrete restoration for condominiums.
Okay. Which is kind of like, it's been a little bit of the hot button lately with, I guess the Surfside, the condominium down in Miami that collapsed. Since that's happened, what effect did that have on all the other condominiums from?
Well, it was a very big eye-opening for most of the condominiums. The tendency before the collapse was that the condominiums will delay repairs until it was like an imminent repair.
Okay.
So they will delay the maintenance needed to keep the repairs at bay. With this collapse, we had a lot of our clients came back to us and implemented a lot of sort of emergency structural repairs because they were obviously afraid that something like that may happen to their building. And the milestone inspection is a result of that collapse.
Okay. So then the Florida law instituted new laws where there had to be an ongoing, like milestone inspections on buildings.
Correct. Yeah. The collapse was in 2021. The Senate passed a law in 2022 for a special inspection. They call it milestone inspection. Mm-hmm. And the threshold that they established was 30 years for any building that is more than 3 stories. That has an exception. That is if the building is within 1,500 feet or so from the coastline, it needs to be every 25 years.
Okay.
It needs to be a 25-year-old building. Once a building qualifies for the first initial inspection, then inspection have to be repeated every 10 years.
Okay. So basically, when you are passing it at the 25-year mark, you're saying this is good for at least another 10 years, and then we'll check it in 10 years? You're not guaranteeing it.
Yeah, pretty much you're saying there is no signs of anything.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Mm-hmm. You keep doing your normal maintenance.
Okay.
So that's where they combine the milestone inspection with the structural integrity research studies.
Okay.
So they came out almost at the same time. So the structural research studies are different from the milestone inspection, but the structural research studies, they are a little more detailed on how much money the condominiums have to put into maintaining the
reserves,
the buildings. Yes.
Okay. So your company basically does the inspection and provides the reports, and then the condominium, they need to hire the professionals to do the work?
The repairs, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the milestone inspection is divided into two phases. So we have phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 inspection is a very visual inspection. It's a very cover all type of inspection on the building, includes habitable and unhabitable spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have to we normally have access like condominium that has a crawl space. So we have to go into the crawl space to see if there's any signs of deterioration in the crawl space. But we don't look for any other signs that are not structural. So sometimes we find signs that are not structural, and we investigate if those signs are related to an structural issue. So those are reported. So all the defects are reported on the report. If something is extremely damaged, that would be considered substantial damage on an element.
Like, what's an example? Like, you're doing your surface, and just what is something like you're actually looking for, and it's like, wow, that's something that needs to be tended to, and you can just tell by your visual inspection.
In these buildings, the majority of the problems have to do with concrete deterioration. So when we're doing inspection and then we see cracks on a column or cracks in a beam, and then we start looking further on the type of cracks and where they're located, it may trigger the second phase inspection that is like, this requires an additional investigation.
Okay.
To see how bad the problem is. If we have areas that are like, the painting is in bad shape, that's not a big deal unless the painting is unless that situation is in a location that is like, okay, that painting is failing because there's a water issue on a retaining wall that may create a problem.
Right.
So everything is more or less correlated, and we try to see everything as a whole and to determine where we may have problems.
So let's just use the example. You see a pillar or a piece of the building that has a pretty decent vertical crack, and you're like, that should trigger, phase 2. When you go into phase 2, are they chipping some of it away to see if the under part is working, doing its job? Or what does phase 2 do once you've identified a potential problem?
Well, once we identify the potential problem, then we try to look at what the best approach to investigate the problem. So most of the concrete problems can be investigated via sounding and sampling, without having to open everything up. Until the time comes for the repair. So that's what we will do on a phase 2 investigation. And the phase 2 investigation not only investigates the damage, we try to determine the level, and then we have to analyze the member to determine how much capacity has lost. So that will determine whether or not it's a substantial damage or not. And there's a specific procedures on the rules that creates those limits, and then we have to follow those parameters to determine if the limits were surpassed or not.
Within the parameters or outside the parameters.
Correct.
So has there been some buildings that you've been to, or even a building where like, I'm so glad we actually found this because this was like a real problem?
Yeah, we're actually working on a building on the south that we found some issues on the columns. And by the time we finished the investigation, it was like a delicate situation. So they're in the process of repairing everything right now. Good.
I mean, it's good to be preventative instead of a tragic, something that can be much, much more worse,
Yes. It's definitely, and less expensive. It's less expensive to put money into maintenance than into repairs.
Right. So good. So you actually have a project now that you're working on where it's like, this was, it's good that they called you out.
Yeah, we have a building where it triggered a phase 2 investigation. On the phase 3 investigation, we work very closely with the board in parallel when we were doing the final investigation on phase 2, we were able to come out with repair drawings, a repair plan, and secure bidders. And by the time we finished the phase 2 investigation and report and submitted it to the county, to the jurisdictions, then they already have the contractor in line to start the repairs.
And I know you don't do all the repairs, but like ballpark, a project like that one is what's a budgetary cost of something like just a round number?
It depends on the damages, but like a typical 3-story building, concrete repair, a well-maintained building but has concrete issues, you may be looking at $400,000.
Okay.
Like a normal 3-story building.
Wow. Okay. And then not in good maintenance, it could be dramatically more.
You can be $1 million or so.
Okay. Wow. So staying ahead of things really keeps the cost down.
Yes.
Long term.
Yep.
Especially you hit the 25. I'm sorry, or if we're coastal, a lot of our condominiums are coastal. So hitting a 25-year and then hitting every 10-year thereafter, and doing the maintenance as planned, then you're probably in good shape.
Generally speaking, you will be, yes.
Yeah. In theory.
Yeah. The studies have shown that the concrete deterioration in coastal areas takes about 7 years to develop and start showing signs.
Okay.
So the 10-year window will catch any signs that if maintenance was delayed for one reason or another, a 10-year period will catch those issues and trigger the alarm system.
This may be a little granular, so tell me if it's just something it's not possible to answer. But if, let's just say you're on an older building and the concrete does need to be restored, and a piece, let's just say a pillar, all your measurements, all your things say, is that like chipping away the concrete, adding new concrete, or?
Pretty much.
Okay.
So the area is secure, the bad concrete is removed until solid concrete is found. It still gets exposed until clean steel is found. Then the steel is examined.
Oh, so they also replace the steel too?
In some cases.
Okay.
In some cases it's replaced. In some cases it can be left just with treatment. So it gets clean, treated, and then new materials with... and the new cement that is used to do those repairs have special chemicals.
Okay.
For bonding and corrosion protection.
Adhering
and
to everything.
Yes.
Okay. Because that sounds like it'd be complicated to replace the steel, but I know they do it on bridges and stuff all the time. But to have steel that's going 3 stories or more, and then certain segments of it needs to be replaced. So securing everything so you could still replace it. That's probably why you guys do what you do.
Yeah, there's methodologies to do it. Yeah, depending on the damage. Yes.
Yeah, that's why the cost gets up there.
The cost gets up there, and we've had cases where the column is so bad that the whole column has to come back down. So the building has to be shored up and hold in a special manner with the special systems, and then the column can be removed. The whole steel gets clean, treated, replaced, or supplemented, and then the new column gets built.
Gosh. Well, I'm glad that, that everybody's required to do this. And, I know nobody likes it, and, the extra costs and the extra fees and things like that. But, and I, just reading headlines of the building that fell in Miami, according to the information I saw publicly, I know you may not be able to talk much about it, but the stuff I saw, they had several warnings years ahead of time of that it needed some repair, and it just one reason or another they chose not to, and then something tragic happened. So that's my understanding that there was. But it wasn't it wasn't, from the headlines I read, it wasn't like happened on a Tuesday. They had decades of at least a decade of warnings from what what was being said online. And I know everything's not true online, but it seemed written pretty well. So
damage takes time to develop in a building. So there's very few occasions that I've seen where there's a sudden collapse on something new or something that happens overnight.
Okay.
Normally speaking, there are signs that shows something's going on. You need to address it. So that's, in my opinion, the intent of the milestone inspection is to catch those signs on an early stage.
Right. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it really is it's just a maintenance thing. And just like anything, you maintain your home, you maintain whatever, and, to keep the integrity of it. Otherwise, and what's nice with at least condominiums is it's spread across 50 owners, 100 owners, 200 owners. So it's not, all just one person.
Yeah,
so. It's
But I mean, on the other side, we do a lot with condominiums. So I know homeowners, they don't like when it's like the repairs are on those units, they're not in mine. Why do I have to chip in so much? So it's like,
yeah, that's I in working with buyers in the past, or actually a lot of times it's mostly owners, and it's weird how they become. Some owners is like, well, it's the association's job, and my job's this, and I'm like, technically, you're one of 250 of ownership.
Yep.
You are just you and 250 people. You are the association. You've got elected officials that are doing the administration, but you're an owner of 250th of that pool, of the roof, of that parking lot, and so just like. No one likes assessments, but like if I have to replace my roof and it's, $50,000, I have to assess myself $50,000 to replace my roof. It's the same thing with condominiums. You have to be assessed for, roof repairs or, reserves or things like that are just maintenance.
Yeah. And the funny thing, well, not the funny thing, but one thing to keep in mind is that the progress of deterioration on a building, it's a parabolic curve. So if you do it early, you spend a little bit of money, but if you wait until the end, the amount of money to repair it, and that's true for anything, for concrete restoration for a house. Mm-hmm. If you're going to wait to paint the door and you don't paint the door on time, you're going to end up replacing the door.
Right.
So instead of spending $50 painting the door, you're going to end up spending a full new door.
Right.
So it's the same with condominiums.
You pay now or pay later, and it's usually when you pay later, it's a lot more.
It's a lot more money. Yes.
But it does. And what's also nice is that you get to enjoy everything in good condition. You know what I mean? And when it's being constantly maintained, coming home or coming to your parking lot or coming to your building or coming to your amenity, it's nice all the time if you keep it maintained properly.
Yes.
Rather than just watching it slowly degrade and until it's like something has to be done here, So, and then like you said, the cost is much, much higher.
Correct. Yes. It's different to do maintenance in a balcony. That is just minor maintenance that come one day and find a piece of balcony on the ground.
No. So, okay. So you have to have a crazy story. What is your most crazy story with doing all this?
Well, with the milestone inspection, the only one was those columns. That was a surprise for everybody. We were like, wow, in the office. At the office, we stopped everything and had half of my team focus on that building to analyze what would be the repercussions on what we found on those columns. So that kind of delay all the other inspections. As far as concrete repairs, one thing that comes to mind is we were doing an inspection probably 10, 15 years ago down in Stuart, and we came into a balcony, and you will walk into the balcony and you felt like you were on a jumping board for a swimming pool. The balcony was just bouncing up and down. And we're like, oh, okay, that's not good. We start looking around, and the balcony was totally cracked. And the guy that owned the unit, he says, my balcony is fine. I just repair it. I use liquid nails to repair the balcony. So it's like, okay. So we had to step out and send a letter to condemn the balcony because it was unsafe. You will walk into the end of the balcony and the balcony will drop about 6 inches or so.
He's probably out there having cocktails in the evening.
Yeah, he will. Even with the balcony closed, we asked later and they told us, no, he kept going out. He kept
It was fixed.
The balcony had this thing, do not go into the balcony. And
even after you guys condemned it.
we sent the note to the building
Yeah.
department. The building department condemned the balcony. And even after that, the guy just kept using the balcony, having drinks in the afternoon.
So, so going back to the one where you kind of shut down your office to like focus on the columns that were, not falling, but like at risk. Was that in Vero Beach?
No.
Okay. Phew. Vero Beach, you're safe. So anything else that you think that would be good for, because our audience is mostly, buyers or sellers that, they don't get into the nitty gritty of like what you guys do. But just as, maybe something that they would be good for them to know.
Well, yeah, the main thing will be probably elaborate a little bit on the structural integrity reserves.
Okay.
That's a total different statute per se, and it focuses in more items than just the structural integrity of the building. It focuses on the roof, windows, doors, the structural, the waterproofing, the painting. So there's about 9 elements that are covered on that structural integrity report. That research study normally is what they need to plan the mandatory reserves for the following 5 to 10 years.
That way, it's basically like a checkup, a physical checkup to let them know, like you said, to set the reserves.
Yeah, to set the reserves. So what's happening now is that the companies that they do those reserve studies, they're waiting for the milestone inspection to be done so that they can observe the health of the building to be able to finalize their numbers.
So they use that as a component of all the reserve study.
They use the milestone as a component to see, how good or how bad this building is, how much life expectancy on certain elements are. And so they're connected because of that condition.
Got it.
The other thing to keep in mind is that at one point in the statutes, some of those monies where the association was able to say, we don't want to do this, we're going to postpone it for the next 3 years or whatnot. The new law says you cannot postpone it.
Right.
If it's a structural damage, you cannot postpone it. Your roof, you cannot postpone it. So all the money has to be allocated and has to be funded and used as needed. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I mean,
and so if you're a consumer, when companies that does what you do and then doing the reserve study, after those reports are signed off by the companies and given to the board, those reports are available to the public, for people that are potential buyers that should be being asking for those whenever they're purchasing.
The milestone inspection by law has to be registered with the building department, but the property manager needs to either upload it to the website, distribute copies to all the owners, and have it available at the office or somewhere.
So can someone go on, is there a website that someone could go on like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this condominium down the street. Can they go to a website and just see if the structural report or the structural report has been done? Or do they have to go to the property manager?
They have to go, right now they have to go to the property manager.
Okay.
The intent is that eventually that will happen. Eventually will be at least a public knowledge to know if they completed the phase 1, completed phase 2 or whatnot. But the details, the reporting itself, the property manager will have it, and they should have it available for all the homeowners.
I haven't even thought about this. And so I'm assuming insurance companies that are insuring the whole building and also buyers that are getting mortgages. I imagine at some point in time, the mortgage companies are going to be interested in those reports.
They already are.
Okay.
They already are. Right now, because it's in the process, we already had to get with insurance companies and talk to them and everything else, telling them that we're in the process of doing the milestone inspection for this building. because some insurance companies, we had one building where the insurance company basically told the building, until you're done with your milestone inspection, we're not
out.
renewing.
Right. Yeah.
We want to see it. So they kind of like stopped the insurance. We had to call the insurance company, talk to them, and eventually the building manager and their lawyer, they worked something out with the insurance company, and they got
to make everybody happy. Okay.
to be able to renew. But I know insurance companies are going to be looking very closely.
And
to
the
those
mortgage
reports.
company, I know a lot of condos are cash purchases, but there are, it does affect it if lending can't, if buyers can only buy in a building with cash, and you're limited with being able to get a mortgage. So
yeah, but even if you buy buildings in cash, the whole building needs an insurance.
Yeah,
I think that you have a building.
Yeah.
Individually speaking, you may not have an insurance because you pay cash.
But the building
itself is where the problem is. The insurance for the whole building is where things may get complicated.
Right. And if the building, so I mean it's but anyway, at the end of the day, if they're getting their inspections and then doing the repairs and then spreading the cost across the owners, it's just part of being, living in a condo and getting, beautiful views.
Yeah, we have, I've seen a lot of buildings throughout these years in this area where there's a lot of buildings where maintenance was delayed for so long that the only repair possible was demolish what's there and rebuild it. Not the building itself, but everything that is exposed, balconies, stairs, catwalks. So take it down and rebuild it. Because maintenance
too
was
far gone. There was nothing to work with.
Correct. Maintenance was just push and push and push until finally
it served its useful life.
Correct.
So life expectancy.
Life expectancy was gone.
It was spent. So I guess just a few, I should have led with this, but a couple personal, like you've lived in Vero Beach, most or you live in Vero Beach now?
Yeah, I live in Vero Beach for 24 years.
Yeah. And I swear we met 15 years ago, doing I needed some structural work or something for one of our clients. And so as soon as I saw you, I'm like, I recognized the face. So that's how I knew, or I figured you've been doing this for quite some time, because that was some time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while since we did those. Like we were talking about the repairs on the pool. There was a lot of those repairs that show up right after the whole hurricanes. Like that we had like 5 hurricanes, like one after another. That created a lot of problems with swimming pools, and we had to
with the water table, right?
Water table
changing.
Yes.
Gosh. Yeah, I never thought about it. So the home that I had, I had it under contract, and the buyer was doing an inspection, and there was a crack showing in the pool. And at first, it just looked kind of like a concrete little surface thing, and then it was on the water. It was on over on Bethel Creek, so it was right there like with the canal. And the inspector kind of recommended, like, just out of abundance of caution, to call you guys and do have you come out with the rods and like where you could tell the density and like see if it's compact enough, or if it was. And you guys found there was a void underneath the pool, and so the pool didn't have a lot of support. And then that's when you guys did. At the time, it was called pressure grouting, where you injected basically cement to fill the void.
Yeah, we had a company come back and do injections.
You guys prescribe basically it needs this much and this much pressure and something like that.
Yeah.
But I learned so much by that. But once the pool was secure, then they were able to resurface it and get the tile and everything. But otherwise, they were just going to be putting good money at bad by resurfacing, because there'd be another crack, and then the crack was creating, problem with the waterline tile, and it was a future mess. It was a future proper mess. So nowadays they're building a lot of the pools with pylons, right?
the majority of the areas that are close to the river, we end up putting piles because soils, most of the areas that are close to the river are reclaimed areas. So basically, they're areas that are filled with the dredge from the river.
Right.
So the soils are such in bad shape that we have to do the pools on piles.
And the piles are basically, just for people who don't know, they are steel or basically rods that are going to the core, like the bedrock.
We use two type of piles. So if it's an existing house, we recommend the helical piers, which is like an air tanker. Basically, it's a helix with a rod attached to it. And then it goes down until it reaches good soil, and then it gets connected to the bottom of the pool.
Okay.
And the other type is if it's a new construction, normally speaking, the house will get, if the soils are bad, the house is also going to get piles, which is our round columns that goes into the ground. And then we'll have just some of them for the pool area.
And then when those go in, the house and pool are not going anywhere.
No, it's designed to stay even. Yeah. The deck may move, but the pool will stay put. Yes, right. We had cases where the soil is so bad that the homeowner comes back and say, "I want the same treatment for my deck because
it's moving.
It's gonna move." Yeah.
Nice. Well, good. Well, I really appreciate your time and coming and sharing all the information. And we'll put your guys' information below in the podcast. So if anyone has, you guys do surveys, keep me honest. You guys do surveys. I know you guys do soil studies.
We don't do soils.
You don't do?
No.
Okay.
We do, we do survey, we do environmental, we do civil.
Okay.
And we do structural engineering.
Nice. Okay. So, man, I really appreciate your time coming out, and I know the team really appreciated you coming to the meeting. It was 3 or 4 weeks ago, so we appreciate it. A few weeks ago.
Yeah. No problem.
All right.
Hope it helps.
Yeah. So stay tuned. If there's if you ever have any questions about building or anything I can help you with, all of my information is below. And thank you so much. Bye. Thank you for that.
No.
Appreciate.